This week on What Do You Got? We're talking our favorite conspiracy theories. Stay tuned.
Ooh.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Bro Down Podcast. I'm Andy Smith.
I'm Tim Fulton.
And this is What Do You Got?
What do you got?
What do you got? So we bring a random topic to the table that the other person does not know about, and then we just pull it apart and talk about it for a little bit. This week's is Tim's. Tim, what do you got?
Conspiracy theories. Specifically, I want to talk about ones we believe in.
Hold on. Is anyone listening?
Well, according to my first topic, the NRA.
Okay.
The NRA.
Whoa, we went like light.
Yeah.
Conspiracy light.
So, I don't know if you heard this news, but recently, you know about all the 5G conspiracy theories? Do you know what 5G is?
5 gig network.
Yes. Good job. So the 5 gig network is coming out relatively soon, and it's being rolled out countrywide. And with all these, go ahead.
Now, real quick, when 4G and 3G came out, is like I remember hearing something where like the 4G or the 3G comes out, but like not everyone gets that, and it's kind of basically like that's the optimum condition that everything could possibly maxed out work at.
Yes.
But it takes like a couple months / years to get everyone up to speed at that.
Yeah. Think about like no one has anything. You have to put a Wi-Fi antenna up somewhere so the people in that area get Wi-Fi, but that
Yes.
doesn't mean nationwide.
Okay.
So same thing.
Okay.
They need special 5G towers for
Magic.
for
Need
magic.
magic.
They need
towers.
magic.
Okay.
They need wizards sitting there going, ah, la, la. Anyway, so like all of this shit, once they started saying, we're going to come out with 5G, the conspiracy theories started. People were like, oh, it's going to be mind control. It's going to give us cancer, this, that, the other thing. The nut jobs
But
went,
4G's not.
and 4G's not. The 5G is going to be the problem. So, but recently, over this past weekend, they found out that 5G is interfering with plane equipment. And it grounded a bunch of planes. And now all these airports that are releasing 5G are rolling it back. So I just imagine some guy somewhere is being like, I fucking knew it. It's evil.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of people that are in conspiracy theories.
Yeah. So thanks to that, it had me think about conspiracy theories. So I want to talk about ones we believe in. I have a couple. It could be something as dumb as I believe the Logan Paul fights were rigged, or something as big as I believe the moon isn't real.
Okay.
It's just not real.
Okay.
So I got a couple of doozies, and I'll let you think too.
Okay.
Unless you want to jump off.
So this is one of the problems with conspiracy theories is that the people that know a lot about the conspiracies are usually so married to the conspiracy that it's not a conversation.
Yes.
It's basically just they believe no matter what evidence you put before them. They're not really looking for the truth. They're looking to only confirm the conspiracy. And they disregard all evidence that leads to not confirming it.
They do. They do.
Which is a problem. And like
I don't care about those problems. I
a
just
lot of
want
the
to talk
problems
about them.
too is that a lot of people that are in conspiracy theories, like I don't say majority, but like a lot of people that I personally have ran into that are conspiracy heavy. I mean, there's professional people that are smarter, but a lot of them don't know a lot about a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Like
I met a flat earther that was not exactly up to snuff.
Bro, I had a conversation with one of those people once, and it was shocking because this person was educated, like in a field that you would not consider somebody that would be a flat earther was educated in.
Yeah. Yeah. I know someone who believes we never made it to the moon. And her point there, 50% of the population, you narrowed it down. Her point was that she was like, all these conspiracy theories, she's like, one of them has to be true. And she's like, and that one seems the most unrealistic to me, that we made it to the moon. But she followed up with, I believe we could make it now. But
see, that's the one where I think that, this is the rabbit hole you go down, right? The problem with the moon one is that the moon one has certain aspects of it that they might have done certain things that make it more believable that they were doctoring shit. But like the one I always hear is like, well, they faked the footage. And I always tell people this. I'm like, if I go to the Grand Canyon and I forgot to take a picture of myself at the Grand Canyon, and then I come home and I'm like, oh, I wanted a picture of myself by the Grand Canyon. So I take a photo and import myself into the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Does that mean I didn't go there?
No.
It doesn't mean you didn't go there. So, like, that doesn't prove that you didn't go somewhere. And also, too, there's been, like, multiple people that have, I guess I'll say allegedly have gone there. And I don't know if you know a lot about people, but they like to talk.
That's one of the big things.
So many people are involved in the space program, like hundreds and hundreds of scientists and all this shit. So, like, they got to know. And, like this whole thing that, like, everyone in government can keep a secret. It's like some people.
They can't.
Some people probably could.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to, like, get rid of them if you don't want them to say anything, right?
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of weird ones that sound crazy that are actually true. Like the Operation Northwoods shit.
I don't know what that one is.
Where, like, back during the Cuban Missile Crisis, they were trying to, like, bring ideas to JFK to, like, get into Cuba.
Yeah.
And one of them was blowing up a civilian airliner. And it got all the way to the point where they were basically like, we just need you to sign this and we're going to do it. And he was like, no. But, like, shit like that.
Yeah.
But
that's crazy.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I think that there's a lot of dark shit, but go ahead.
All right. So the first one I got on my list, which I heard when I was younger. So conspiracy theories, obviously take all of this with a grain of salt. But it made a lot of sense to me at the time, and I don't know if there's a way to confirm or deny it, so it's one that I kind of hung on to.
Okay.
Harriet Tubman is a code name, not a person.
What do you mean?
So Harriet Tubman was famous.
Underground
Railroad. She made over 20 trips back and forth between the South and the North, freeing over 300 slaves by taking them through the route. The theory is that Harriet Tubman, although she might have been a person, evolved from there. And the word Harriet Tubman became a code name for I am safe. I will take you.
Okay, so kind of like, hey, do you know, I got to go see a man about a dog. Meaning,
Yes.
Like, I'm going to go have booze.
Yeah, so a bunch of people would go down there. And the theory is that the heroics of this were astronomical. She went back to the South like 20 times. Never got caught. Granted, she was in the Underground Railroad, but the Underground Railroad is like trails in the woods. It's not what people think.
No, it's not a giant tunnel.
Yeah, it's a trip. Like
it seems like that when you're a kid, though.
It's a journey. It would be like Frodo.
Journey's a nice word.
Yeah, it would be like Frodo making it to Mordor, and then going back and forth 20 times, being like, I just got to do it. You know what I mean? Granted, it's for an important reason, but someone was like, it's a little unbelievable that one woman was able to do this, and maybe she did, but maybe she did it a certain amount of times, and that grew. And so you had multiple people going down there saying, I'm Harriet Tubman. It became like, I am Spartacus. I am Spartacus. I am Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
And so multiple people brought them back, and that's how the numbers got so inflated. And after it was done, we didn't have technology, so you have someone in a bar sitting somewhere being like, I was a Harriet Tubman, and a bunch of other people were like, sit down, you asshole.
Yeah.
And it also became important that there was a symbol of the freedom. So she kind of became the symbol of the Underground Railroad. So they kind of kept it.
That one to me, from what you're telling me, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And here's, in my head, the couple reasons why I'm thinking that. I like reading history shit.
Yeah.
And one of the things about history, especially when you put together like what you've learned in school, is that a couple things they do with you in school. Number one, they can't go super in depth in school, so they have to like water it down for kids. And a lot of times when they water it down, it's like a very simplified version of what happened, which most people just carry that into their adult life if they remember it.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that one thing that a lot of people don't think about when they read history is that some historians and some things are wrong. They're inaccurate. And like you're taking basically like one person's opinion of what happened.
And that was a point that I wanted to bring up. Like I'm sure there's going to be some people that say that's not true. Like we know the route she took. Like, we know where she was.
Yeah, and you can
But-
get two experts that are both experts that completely disagree with it.
Exactly. So, like, yeah, we knew where she was, but did we? Did we?
Yeah.
We knew where someone said she was after the fact, or
Yeah.
where she said she was after the fact, or whatever. But we don't really know.
And that's also the issue with like people hearing stories is that there's the not confirmation bias, but it's like the first hearing theory.
I
or
know what you're
whatever.
talking. It's like initial bias. That's not what it's called.
Yeah,
but I know
like
what
when
you're
you
talking
hear
about.
whatever story you hear first is the one you go with.
Yeah, exactly.
So that one makes sense because again, nobody has a time machine. There was nothing recorded back then. So you're basically tying all this together through, and the further back you go, especially like civilizations that don't have a lot of like paperwork or like things that are written about them, they're basically just guessing.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff. Now these guys are real smart. They can put things together from like things that they know. But at the same time, like it really just is like an educated guess.
Yeah.
Because here's the
100%.
thing. Even if somebody writes down, like if you're the guy that's in charge and you write down like, yeah, these people are barbarians and they skin people alive, like you could be taking that from a guy who is trying to put a propaganda campaign against somebody's people.
Yeah.
And they might have not really done that. You might be reading like mainstream media for back then trying to like discredit
Yeah.
another person. So it's real weird.
It is very, very weird. And
Yeah.
that's one that I've always liked. Not to like undermine
That's one of the more that's not really undermining it. That's basically like it's just like if that is true, let's just pretend that it's true.
Yeah.
It just kind of like adds to the allure of like that maybe that lady, if it wasn't like her doing all the things, maybe she was like a prominent person who did it.
Yeah.
And like they just named it for her because everyone kind of heard that story.
Yeah. So like instead of 20 times she went down, maybe she went down 5, and after that, like everyone else went once or twice.
Well, just a code
And
word.
just-
And
yeah.
here's the thing: when you say someone's name, like there's a lot of people. It's not like you're saying like you know Red Barn or something weird where you're just saying a person's name.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That one I'll say. Okay.
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 So that's one that's not super crazy.
Next one up. So do you know what the debt ceiling is for the United States?
It's in the trillions.
Well, no. Do you know what it is? Like the concept?
Oh, we can't go past it.
Yeah. So the
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah. So my conspiracy theory that I heard was that the Congress purposely uses the debt ceiling to hide other issues that they want to push through. So for those who don't know, the debt ceiling is basically an imaginary ceiling that we're not allowed to borrow against.
Unless we're at war.
Because, well, all the time. Like
No,
we're
unless
just not-
we're at war, then it goes away.
Oh, really?
I believe there's no debt ceiling when you're actively in a war. They don't pay attention to it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure that's somewhere.
Someone fact checked that.
Yeah. Just started another conspiracy.
So, but you got me all
Sorry.
off.
Debt ceiling.
So the show Barney, no. So the debt ceiling, you can't go above the debt ceiling unless Congress approves it. The odds thing is that Congress also dictates how much we spend and how much money comes in from taxes and whatnot. So they control revenue, they control expenses, they control the debt ceiling. So they control finances in America, flat out. So whenever we get close to the debt ceiling, there's always this argument that happens in Congress. We're borrowing too much. We can't raise it. We can raise it. Blah, 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 blah. Everyone knows at this point that if we hit the debt ceiling, it's bad for the world. The world, not just America, but definitely America, but the entire world. We can't pay our bills. If we can't pay our bills, the American dollar begins to crumble, trustworthy-wise, and global economics, like, it will just shatter. Like, it's bad. So Congress agrees that that can't happen. But sometimes it's every 3 months. Sometimes it's every 2 years. Whenever it happens, we get close to the debt ceiling, and then they discuss it, and then it sure as shit, it raises. And you hear in the news, Congress did it. We raised the debt ceiling. And some people think it's to blame the other side. So Republicans will use it to blame Democrats, like, oh, you spend too much. Or Democrats will use it against Republicans and be like, oh, look at you. You're as fiscally irresponsible as us. But the theory is that, no, this takes so much news coverage, and it's so dangerous that if we did go past it, that all these news outlets focus on it, And so when Congress passes it, they're like, we did it. We fucking did it. We passed the debt ceiling, and we got rid of women's suffrage, and we passed the debt ceiling. And you're just like, wait, what was that second part? And they're just like, the debt ceiling. And you're like, wait, all right, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And so, like, you don't see the other shit going through because no one is paying attention to it.
Well, I'll put it to you this way.
Even though it's a non-issue.
I don't think that that's only a debt ceiling issue. I think they do that with gun control. I think they do that with abortion. I think they do that with trying to cause racial issues, with, like, trying to hype up things to an ungodly level instead of trying to actually help the issues. The problem is with the debt ceiling, from what you're telling me, is that it's all the problems that would come if we went past it are opinion. It's the perception. It's like a stock, right? You're looking at it, but just hear me out.
Yeah.
You're looking at a stock. A stock is basically the people's opinion of how much money that company is worth. Now, there's some hardline things that make that stock worth more money, but a bad news article could make a stock that was $1,000 become $500 in a day. It doesn't mean that, but just hear me out. If the debt ceiling was $1 trillion today, and tomorrow it goes to $1.1 trillion, we pass a debt ceiling.
Yeah.
But Congress just raised it by $0.2 trillion, so we didn't go past it.
Yeah.
But we did.
Yeah.
It's the same amount of debt. It's just they're declaring that it went past this imaginary line that they make up. They decide what the ceiling is. So it's a game.
It is a game. So yes and no. The problem is that the reason that the American dollar can, I don't even know where to begin. So if America has a certain amount of expenses, say we're at the debt ceiling, and they owe contractors a certain amount of money, but they can't borrow anymore. So say the contractors are working. Now we can't pay them. So they just don't pay them. So then money stops going to these contractors, and it starts hurting, like, infrastructure and all this other crap. And that's how the American dollar gets, you're right there, that it gets, the opinion of it gets hurt. But it's because America...
Have we ever gone past the debt ceiling?
No. And this is why. Because they won't. They won't
That's
ever...
my point. That's my point.
Yeah.
Is that it's this fictitious thing, like you said, that's used as a bargaining chip for getting what they want, or like if the people are screaming for something that the government really doesn't want to do, or the Congress really doesn't want to do, we can't raise that debt ceiling right now. And then as soon as it gets to the point where it's like something they want, we got to raise it because we need this budget.
Yeah.
It's just a fictitious bargaining chip, because
100%.
What's going to happen? Like, we're already, $5 trillion in debt?
Whatever
it is, but it's like we're $5 trillion.
Jamie, pull that up.
Yeah, we're $5 trillion in debt. But, like, what are we going to do? Just stop paying after $5 trillion? It doesn't make any sense. You're not going to just let the country collapse because you're like, no more money to borrow. Like, so many.
23 trillion.
23 trillion. Okay, so this brings up an interesting point. 25 trillion.
25 as of June 2020.
So, little bit of weird history. I'm going to go off tangent. This is going to be a long one, so just fuck off with the time. Do you know that movie Troy?
Fast?
Huh?
I have to pee so bad.
No, you don't.
I'm going to edit this.
Okay.
Because I literally just said I have to pee on a podcast, and I'm not doing
That's
that.
okay.
And we're back.
Okay. So one of the things that I always think about when conspiracies about the government come up is what's the word, like the ignorance or the naivety, whatever, however you say that name in that sense of the word.
Yeah.
I failed English. So that people like know what the government, like they know what the government is all about and what they're doing. And then you ask them like things about history and they have no idea what anything is with history. So one of the things that I think of when you're talking about the debt ceiling and how it affects other countries.
Yeah.
You've seen the movie Troy.
Yeah.
Okay. So that entire civilization era just basically disappeared. Like the Trojans, the Mycenaeans, Egyptians, all that shit. They basically were all like trading with each other to a level that they had like giant cities with like hundreds of thousands of people. And then they disappeared, and there wasn't civilizations like that for another 500 years in that region, right? The basis that they're kind of going around now is that the only thing that would need to happen, and that probably did happen, is that if one of those civilizations crumbled, they were basically so evolved for the time that they actually relied on each other for trade to function.
Yeah.
And all you needed was one of them to collapse. And it would just basically make the other ones not able to function because of either trade goods or food, whatever. So when everyone's saying like, oh, like, do you think the rest of the world is going to be like cool that America just collapses? Like even someone like that we're supposedly like enemies with, like China. Like we do a ton of business with China.
Ton.
Not the government, but like the people
Yeah.
do a ton of business with China. Now they might be stocking up the coffers, and you can go into that conspiracy theory for blah, blah, blah. But it's not good for anybody when a country that does a mass amount of trade with the world is doing shitty.
Yeah.
It's just not good. So I agree. It's a fucking, it's like a point of distraction. Like, look at this. Look at this over here.
Yeah.
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 And then the other thing I was going to bring up, you ever hear about the book War is a Racket?
Of course I have. I read it the other. No.
Okay. So in the book, the guy, just make it quick. In the book, the guy goes over like certain things that the government contracts, like you were saying, that they bought during World War II and World War I.
Okay.
So one of them was they put out a contract for like 9 million boots.
Okay.
There was only like 2 million troops. They didn't use any of the boots. They just ordered them. A couple other ones were like they ordered 6,000 horse carriages. They didn't even have horses over there. They didn't do anything with them. But they were basically like trading under the table. Like, hey, we're getting a lot of money. We're at war. Let's make some money here, bro.
Yeah.
The worst one, which is the most comical one, it doesn't seem like it, like because of the like 9 million. It's not like a 9 million number, but they sold like a couple hundred or a couple thousand wrenches, right? These giant wrenches to the military or to the, and there was no bolts big enough for the wrench to fit. There was just no bolts big enough for the wrench to fit. But the link together was at the end of it, he says, if the war had continued, you can bet that they would have made a bolt to fit the wrench so that they could sell it to the army.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that the government does when
Yeah.
people are dying. Like, they just piss money away for no reason than back alley deals. And it's not like the government is this one big person. So
It's a million people doing what a million people do.
Yeah.
They're all doing their own bullshit.
I feel like a lot of the conspiracy theories with the government are a lot simpler, but a lot darker
Yeah.
than people imagine.
Yeah.
Like, they're not as complex. They're just very simple, like thievery or
Yeah, so that's
shit like
that's a
that.
perfect example. World War II's going on. The U.S. government probably said, all right, we're going to have $1 billion to spend towards this war. Someone somewhere, not just some ones, but someone somewhere is saying to themselves, all right, $1 billion. How much of that can I get?
Yeah.
Not how much can I contribute. How much of that can I get?
Well, it's basically,
and how do I get it?
Checks and balances. Nobody can watch everything.
Yeah.
So the people that, like, hey, the Senate says you got $1 billion. This is for guns. This is for, goods and whatever. So then they give it to their underlings.
Yeah.
And the underlings like, hey, carriage maker, if I get you a contract for 6,000 carriages, what are you going to give me? And they're like, but there's no horses over there. I'm like, I didn't say that. I said if I get you a contract for 6,000 carriages, what are you going to give me? And then they're like, give you the profit of 1,000 of them. Deal. And then he goes and sells it to his boss.
Yeah.
And his boss doesn't have time to go check out the carriage maker.
Yeah. You just signed a paper.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, do it. They need it.
Do it. Go
ahead.
Go.
Yeah. So
Oh, you're getting me infuriated.
I know. So next one, what do you got?
That was it. Those were my two.
Okay, so my ones that off the top of my head is the moon landing.
Okay.
Okay,
Wait, you don't believe in the moon landing?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I do think that we went to the moon. I think that there's probably some fuckery. Again, I don't go deep into these. I listen to people talk about them, and I just like have sound bites in my head. But from all the shit that I've heard, it sounds like there was some fuckery with when they made the footage. And it kind of makes sense, right? We're in a Cold War. We're racing the Russians. They were the first to space, so we had to kind of be first to the moon. We had the one-up. And even if we did get there, I don't think... I find it plausible that they had a backup in case the ship blew up, in case the footage didn't make it home, in case any of that stuff. So they basically... were like, hey, maybe we should film this in a studio, and that in case like the film gets damaged, we can just prove that we went there.
Did you ever hear about Big Bird and the Challenger?
What?
So Challenger was the rocket that blew up. Big Bird was supposed to be on it. So they were going to have this whole segment where Big Bird was going to go to the Challenger, and they were going to have like, I don't know if it was going to be a costume or if they were just going to say Big Bird was on it.
Probably just say it. They're not putting a fucking bird suit in a fucking... They're not putting extra weight and volume in a fucking rocket.
So something like that was supposed to happen, but for whatever reason, the deal fell through, and Big Bird was not allowed on the Challenger. Then the Challenger blew up. What do you think would happen if Sesame Street had like an episode where they're like, Big Bird's going to space, and like Big Bird walks off, and then the Challenger blows up? Would he come back with a couple burnt feathers? Like... I'm sorry for laughing at this, but the thought was hysterical in my head.
I flew down. I'm a bird. But everybody else don't have
He comes back with PTSD. He's like, bro, that shit was fucking crazy.
Buying crack from Oscar. The other one is the JFK assassination.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just imagine being like Elmo being like, let's count. 1, 2, and Big Bird's just like, don't count down, don't count down, don't count down.
Big Bird's like 10, 9, 8.
You're just staring off into space.
Ernie, we have a problem. Yeah, that's not good.
Sorry, continue.
No,
it's not even a conspiracy theory. I just think it's freaking hysterical.
Big Bird planned it. Yeah. So. Another one is the JFK assassination, which is like, that one has a lot of holes in it.
That one does have a lot of holes. There's a lot of weird shit.
The more you go down that one seems it's the most prolific conspiracy theory that is the most like, doesn't pass the sniff test.
Yeah.
Like,
something was up.
Well, they have like, do you know a lot about it?
I know that there's the man on the
grassy knoll.
The grassy knoll. I know that there was a bunch of theorized agents there because there was people who were clearly out of place. But that's really and I know that Oswald, he died or he was murdered afterwards, so he didn't really have time to say his piece. And there was one more thing. They were saying that the way that the shots lined up, it just didn't make sense because there was 2 shots.
There was 5.
5?
I think he fired his weapon 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
I think he hit him 3 times.
Okay.
But there's a bunch of things that are weird. Like you can go over the footage of like him getting shot and his head actually like goes back when he got shot from behind.
Yeah.
But a couple things that are like the most fuckery ones was like the magic bullet theory, right? And the magic bullet theory, because of the trajectory and all these other things, they had to come up with a way that one bullet went through a couple times or something because it didn't make sense any other way. So they came up with this magic bullet theory. But then as they gurneyed him into the hospital, they found a bullet on the gurney. And it was like a perfect bullet. Like it wasn't deformed.
Oh.
So when you fire a bullet out of a gun, it gets really hot.
Yeah.
Which means it's really malleable.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't hot and malleable, if it hits a bone or a skull, it's going to deform.
Yeah.
Right? It's going a couple hundred feet per second, if not close to 1,000 from a rifle. And it's going to not look like a bullet when it was in the cartridge, but it's literally like a perfect bullet. Then they got people that have got ricocheted from like concrete on the sidewalk, and like they found like another bullet hole in them after they were stitching them up. They didn't let the fucking they kind of like told the guy doing the autopsy like what he was allowed and not allowed to do. just all that shit. And then when Oswald was coming out of the courthouse or going to the courthouse, he gets shot by a mob guy.
Yeah.
And right before that, he was saying to the news reporters, I'm a patsy. Like, I was set up. And then the guy that killed him, which for the life of me, his name is escaping me right now, but I it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, he ends up dying of cancer. He found that he had cancer, like, right after he went to jail. And within, like, 3 months, he was dead.
Yeah.
And then all that shit came out where, like, there was all those things where the government was, like, experimenting with how to give people cancer really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So
all that I agree. So I don't know what that's one that, like, I believe in the conspiracy, but I don't know what the answer is because, like you said, that doesn't pass a sniff test. No. I don't know if it was the mob. I don't know if it was the CIA.
You know the whole backstory about why the mob wanted to do it.
No.
So John F. Kennedy's father was a bootlegger.
Yeah, that I know.
So he basically had really strong ties with the mob. And they controlled the Teamsters unions back then. The Teamsters is a trucking union, basically. There's like 2.5 million people in the trucking union. So when senators or anyone wanted to get into office, it's like you get votes. Whoever was in charge of the Teamsters union tells you who to vote for, and they look up to him, so they vote for whoever you tell them to. So they basically made a deal with Bobby Kennedy or whatever his name was to get one of his sons into the presidency. And they were said, like, when you get there, you're going to back off. Like, you're going to back off all our shit and kind of let us just do our thing. And when he got in there, they didn't do that. And his younger brother, Bobby, like, went after them hard, like, really hard. And there's a bunch of conspiracy theories with that, too, like the reasons. But so then basically they were saying, like, hey, dude, like, we put you there and now you're going to fuck us. So, like, there's that whole theory. But then it's like, well, maybe there was some working together with both parties because Kennedy was not a favored guy among politicians.
Yeah.
He was, like, really outspoken against, like, big government. He's trying to do the rollbacks of the FBI and all that shit. And they were like, whoa, dude, like, you know how long it took us to put this secret shit together? Fuck off. So that one's definitely one of those, like, every time you hear something, you're like, huh? Is it a crazy person or is it credible?
I know. That's part of the problem is that whenever you hear these things, you're like, oh. No.
And I don't know enough about it to that extent to, like, debate someone on it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
But the other one that I'm thinking of, there's two more. Number one, aliens, which there's a bunch of different ones. Number two is Bigfoot.
Where do you land on Bigfoot?
I land on Bigfoot.
I'm curious.
With it's just a bunch of lonely people.
I've heard that it's probably nudist colonies.
No. You don't listen. There was a fucking thing that used to exist that resembled a Bigfoot, but it hasn't been around for a long time. And the amount of, like, back in the 70s, you could see it because that part where he's supposedly roaming around is, like, really, really, like, dense forest, and, like, nobody really lives there, right? But, like, where are the bodies?
Yeah.
Where are the bodies? Like, it's an ape, right? It doesn't live in a house. It doesn't have a cell phone. So, like, does it know to bury bodies? Well, you would find the burial grounds. Like, there's not one of them was killed by anything? And none of them die?
We don't have any bones?
We'd have nothing. But then, like, when you see people that really believe in Bigfoot, like, everything's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Like, every piece of shit on the ground is Bigfoot shit.
They have a show, Chasing Bigfoot.
Yeah.
It's on, like, season, like, 5 or 6 or something like that. They haven't found it.
Yeah. Rogan pretty much, like, nailed them in the coffin with, like, his bit on Bigfoot. He's basically said, like, it's all unfuckable white guys. Because, like, there's nobody else does it.
Yeah.
Like, nobody else does it. And everything is Bigfoot.
Who pays for this shit? Whatever. Yeah.
You ever see what they wear? Nobody pays for nothing.
Oh, well.
Not even showers. Okay? Yeah. I don't know. What other ones have you heard of? Like, what ones have you heard of that you know nothing about?
Oh, God. I should have been more prepared for this topic. Yeah, I brought 2 good ones to the table.
Aliens. What about aliens?
So did you hear about that thing in space for a while? I definitely think we've met
What thing
them.
in space?
So, that thing. So there was they were looking at a specific star in space, and they noticed that something was getting in the way of it. Like a shadow, but like a bunch of big shadows. You can look this up. This was a couple of years ago.
Like a dirty lens?
No, they were like, it looks like something's rotating, but like not orbiting it. So there was a theory going around a game theory. Sorry, that was irrelevant.
I missed something. Go ahead.
Yeah, you missed something. No one is gonna get that. But so it wasn't orbiting. They said it was a big looking thing that was just like going in circles. So they're like, it looks like some sort of not man-made but alien-made satellite that is staying stationary, that is massive because it's causing a noticeable shadow on this star millions of light years away. And then NASA like one day was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. We changed our mind. That's not what it was. It was definitely something else. And so a bunch of people were like, what? But you were pretty convinced. You were pretty convinced that was a thing.
Yeah. The problem that I have with the space stuff is that everyone in that field is so much smarter than the rest of the world.
It's true.
That when they say something you hear, you're like, yeah. But then they're like, actually, no, it was this gaseous. And they're like, bullshit. That ain't what it was. And you're like, can you explain that to me then? And they're like, you're just lying. Like, nobody really knows what the fuck. Because, like, certain things in space don't, like, listening to way smarter people, they'll say a sentence that makes you like, I know nothing.
I know nothing.
Like, I know nothing. Like, when Neil deGrasse Tyson's like, some infinities are bigger than others, you're like, okay, stop it.
That one I actually understand.
I understand it too.
In concept, not
in
like,
the concept,
yeah.
in the basic concept of it. But there's certain things like that. Like when you tell somebody like you age differently in space than you do on the Earth. And it's like that alone is like people can be like, okay, I understand that. But but it's like to really actually understand why is different than just getting it.
Yeah, getting it. Understanding it requires like 8 years of education.
Yeah, and you're also like just the simple thing of like, oh, you see that star over there? It's 100 million light years away. So if that star disappeared right now, it's been gone for 100 million years.
Yes.
And people are like, what do you mean? You're like, it took the light 100 million years to get here. So by the time the last bit of light gets here,
it's done.
It's been dead for 100 million years, and you just noticed it, which is fucking terrifying.
I know,
right? So, with that said, there's a lot out there that I don't understand, right? Now, there's an old Area 51 thing where like shit's crashed. It is a little naive to think that we're the only thing in the vastness of space that ever made life.
And we don't even know how vast space is.
It's ever growing.
A, it's ever growing. B, there's a horizon point because light can only travel so far so fast.
It also bends.
And bends. And the universe...
Think about that.
And the universe is so big that light can't reach us fast enough. So things are expanding, right?
Yeah.
So we're expanding to a point where light isn't going fast enough from certain distances to ever reach us.
Yeah.
Because it's expanding too fast. So that point horizon, we'll never see past it. So
Yeah.
because of that, we don't know how big space is.
We're never going to know.
Yeah.
How many galaxies of how many universes are there? And then you're like, oh, well, there's multiple versions of that. And it goes on forever till the end of never.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute. And then people will be like, I know things about space. You're like, you don't know shit. You don't know shit. Okay?
It's black out there.
But with all
that isn't even true.
With all that being said, for us to think that we're like the only things ever to like make it. But here's the other thing too. It's equally as likely that we are. Because if you think about the chances, like what had to happen here for us to be here, one flap of the butterfly's wings and we don't exist.
Yeah.
played over billions and trillions of endless, infinite times.
And they've tried to replicate that, making basic life forms. Basic life forms out of nothing. They can't do it.
No.
Like, because you need...
millions of years.
A, you need millions of years. B, you need very specific conditions for these amino acids or whatever to form in a specific way. So something starts like, so a rock gets legs and starts walking around saying, "What's for dinner?"
Did you ever hear about that snail that lives in the bottom of the ocean inside of like active magma displacements?
No. Sounds like a Pokemon.
It's some weird snail that basically like its shell is, I hope this isn't fake because I'm pretty sure a credible source listed this, like a credible like source, like online, like nature source.
Yeah.
Its shell is made of like iron ferrite or some shit, and it lives in like 1,000-degree temperature in the lava, and it basically like the because of the pressures down there, it's what allows it, like it's adapted to live in those pressures. And I'm like, if that thing learned how to do that, like it's not that hard to believe like a fish invented an iPhone 20 million years later.
Yeah.
Or some shit. You know what I mean? Like my time's a little off there. But you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
Like, so when you're talking about aliens, but then it's like, well, did aliens land here? Like, do we have a crashed craft? But here's the thing. We're always talking about intelligent life. What if they're dumber? If they're dumber, they didn't figure out a way to get here.
Well, that's actually so I read this thing once that was one of the theories on why we haven't met anything in space yet. One of them was that there's nothing, and it's just empty. One of them was that we're first. So, yeah, we might be the only intelligent life out there so far, because they're saying that the universe is relatively young. How the fuck anyone knows that? Whatever.
That sounds like somebody that's getting a birthday card turning 50.
Yeah.
It's like, you're 50 years young.
One of the theories was that we're not significant enough yet. So, yeah, there might be intelligent life forms out there, but they don't see us that way yet.
Yeah, we're ants on a hill.
Yeah, exactly. So no one cares about us. One of the theories is that this one was my favorite because it's so dark, is that everyone else is hiding because there's one big bad out there, and if they see you, they kill you, kind of thing.
There's one big what?
One big bad. So instead of like one intelligent life, imagine it's kind of like Star Trek, where there's a bunch of intelligent life. Except, what was the evil race in Star Trek?
The
Klingons. Except if a Klingon finds you, they just destroy your entire planet and take it for their own. Kind of like Independence Day.
Well, here's the thing, though, is
but
that
no one wants to talk.
if you're hiding, like you have to live on a planet, we're assuming, and planets don't move past their orbit. So once they see you, it's kind of like, we'll catch you in 364 days. We'll just wait here. And you'll be back. We don't even have to go anywhere. You'll loop around. Like,
yeah,
I get the like not traveling across the universe kind of thing, but
so
like
they don't want to make their presence known because the universe is so big. So if you spend however much energy going 500 light years to go to a new planet for intelligent life, however that would work,
yeah,
you don't want to just guess at it. You want to make sure someone's there, so no one else is putting out radio signals or whatever.
That's true.
For that reason, because they're afraid to.
Yeah, Americans are pretty arrogant. They're like, let's just throw our radios in the fucking space and just be like, hey, we're here.
Yeah.
Like,
what's
hey,
up?
dude, like,
stop.
What are you doing? Like, that's like.
Have you watched no movies?
That's like, hey, we want to know if there's things in the ocean. Here, Johnson, take a buoy and just go float out there.
Yeah.
And if you die, we'll know. And
Good
then
luck.
we'll come back.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I brought up the snail was that people immediately assume of like what a habitable planet is.
Yeah.
So like planets that we could never step foot on. I mean, there's things on this planet that will die if they're in the same atmosphere as us.
And vice versa.
Fish.
Yeah.
That snail. But that snail's a weird one. And even like small microorganisms that live in like inside of shit that would like kill most things on Earth.
Yeah.
But stuff like that, like there might be other planets with like races of people that live in lava or some weird shit.
And what do we know?
What do we do when the lava people come? We're fucked. I mean, probably good that most of our planet's water.
I was gonna say we're the water people, so
Yeah.
it's like the elements, Avatar style.
But the fire guy's always the bad guy in the movies. The fire element guy's always the last one.
Literally, the intro of Avatar is everything was safe or everything was okay until the Fire Nation attacked.
Yeah, it's always the Fire Nation.
It's always the Fire Nation.
Always.
All right. Any last thoughts before we sign out this bitch?
Yeah, we're going to have to do like 5 more of these. Because these are fun to just bullshit about.
These are good ones to bullshit about. All right, guys, let us know what your conspiracy theories are, specifically the ones that you believe in the comment section down below. Mike, I know you're out there. I know you're watching this. I want a doozy from you. Don't forget to go to brodownpro.com. We're coming out with new stuff all the time, including revamping the website. We have a little gaming section there now where you can go and play some retro games. If you have some suggestions on what you want to pop up there, let us know.
So you can find it.
So we can find it. Yeah, it's a little sketchy. Bye.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day.